Imagine being at the peak of your career, surrounded by colleagues applauding your 35 years of dedication to Boeing, when your wife approaches with what you think is a special gift, only for it to be divorce papers she wants you to sign in front of everyone, not realizing that over the next 48 hours, 37 strategic calls would turn their betrayal into the complete downfall of their lives. My name is Robert Harrison. I'm 58 years old, and for 35 years I worked as an aerospace engineer at Boeing here in Seattle. My double life was well organized. I designed military security systems by day and returned home to Diana, my wife of 30 years, who managed our household. Tyler and Jessica, our adult children, visited regularly, and together we seemed like the perfect picture of American stability. Diana had always handled the finances well, but recently her obsession with my retirement benefits took a strange turn. She knew specific figures from my pension fund that I'd forgotten, and asked technical questions about documentation she'd never cared about before. Anytime the topic of divorce came up casually, she'd get visibly uncomfortable and quickly change the subject. Tyler, 28, works in digital marketing, and Jessica, 26, is an accountant, both professions that gave them the skills to trace financial information. During family dinners, they'd ask oddly specific questions about important documents and where I kept my retirement files. Their coordination was subtle, but noticeable to someone trained to detect suspicious patterns. The signs of possible betrayal were scattered throughout the house like puzzle pieces I couldn't quite assemble. Diana had developed new habits, expensive lunches she never mentioned, phone calls that ended the moment I entered the room. My wife was never a good liar, but she was learning with a level of dedication that deeply concerned me. As retirement approached, strange behavior intensified across the entire family in a way that felt too coordinated to be coincidence. Deanna wanted detailed information about the Boeing retirement ceremony. Tyler offered to help plan the party, and Jessica volunteered to handle our tax situation, using technical terms that revealed suspiciously deep knowledge of my finances. What puzzled me most was how Diana knew details about my retirement that even I had forgotten. In casual conversations about our future plans, she quoted exact benefit amounts with impressive mathematical accuracy. It was as if my own wife had access to information that should have been confidential. The final weeks leading up to the ceremony made the coordination between the three of them unmistakably clear. Diana insisted I organize documents into a specific folder. Tyler offered help with digital files. The way they operated in sync reminded me of coordinated military ops I knew all too well. There was a defining moment 2 weeks before the ceremony, when I found Diana on the phone speaking in a conspiratorial tone. She hung up quickly and explained she was planning a surprise for my retirement. If I had known what kind of surprise they were actually planning, and what concept of justice I'd have to apply, I might have paid closer attention. The retirement ceremony at Boeing was perfect. Colleagues from 35 years gathered, heartfelt speeches about my aerospace systems career. Diana stood beside me, smiling for photos, Tyler and Jessica clapping proudly when my classified military projects were mentioned. It was exactly how I had imagined my farewell from professional life. Amid the congratulations and handshakes, Diana approached with an elegant folder that I assumed was a special family gift. "Robert, I need you to sign these papers now, before we forget," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. When I opened the folder, my world silently crumbled. It was divorce papers already filled out, just waiting for my signature. "This is a joke, Diana," I asked quietly, trying not to draw attention from the colleagues nearby. She kept her cold smile and replied, "No, Robert. We've already spoken with an attorney. Everything's been decided." Tyler and Jessica stepped closer, flanking their mother like soldiers in formation. The coldness in their eyes told me everything. This family betrayal had been planned down to the last detail. "You chose my retirement day for this?" I whispered, feeling the weight of decades of work being stained by this ambush. Jessica spoke for the first time. "Dad, this is better for all of us. You'll understand eventually." Tyler just nodded, holding what looked like financial documents. My own family had turned into a cold, calculated corporation. The room around us remained festive, colleagues laughing and celebrating, completely unaware that a divorce was being orchestrated just feet away. Diana insisted, "Sign it now, Robert. We don't want to turn this into a public scene." The irony was cruel. They had chosen my moment of professional glory to execute the most personal blow possible. It was a humiliation meticulously planned. I looked at the documents again and noticed details that confirmed the extent of the conspiracy. They knew exactly how much I earned, were familiar with my specific benefits, had information only someone with access to my accounts could know. "How long have you been digging into my finances?" I asked directly. The hesitation on Diana's face gave me the answer I needed. I picked up the pen with a steady hand, signed the papers without showing emotion, and handed the folder back. "There. I hope it was worth it," I said, looking each of them in the eye. Tyler mumbled something about it being for the best. Jessica avoided my gaze, and Diana quickly tucked the documents away. Their revenge was complete, or at least that's what they thought. As they quietly left the celebration, I stayed in the room, shaking hands and pretending nothing had happened. Inside, something different started turning. Not anger, not despair, but something far more dangerous: absolute clarity. What Diana, Tyler, and Jessica didn't know was that for 12 years I had silently prepared for this exact moment. In the days following the ceremony, my double life finally made complete sense. For 12 years, while Diana thought she was married to a predictable engineer, I had been building an invisible fortress. Every night she thought I was just reviewing Boeing projects. I was actually monitoring accounts, documenting conversations, backing up everything digitally. My background in military security systems taught me that the best defense is always silent preparation, and I had been preparing for this betrayal long before it happened. The first move was discreet. I called Marcus Chen, a divorce attorney I knew from my military days. "Marcus, I need someone who understands both family law and financial crimes," I said bluntly. He chuckled on the other end. "Robert, you've always been direct. When can we meet?" We scheduled a meeting for the next day at a quiet cafe in Bellevue, far from Seattle's curious eyes. While Diana, Tyler, and Jessica secretly celebrated their supposed victory, I began executing protocols I'd mentally rehearsed hundreds of times. First, I reviewed every document they had me sign, identifying clauses that could be contested due to lack of financial transparency. Second, I accessed bank accounts my family didn't even know existed. In 12 years, I had quietly saved $287,000 in cash, strategically withdrawn from multiple institutions. Third, I activated digital monitoring systems that gave me full access to my ex-family's communications. The revenge they had planned against me was amateur compared to what I was preparing. For years, I had learned that true justice doesn't come from emotional outbursts, but from meticulous documentation and strategic patience. Every suspicious conversation from Diana had been recorded, every shady financial transaction from Tyler logged, every move Jessica made toward my accounts was documented. They thought they were playing chess, but I'd been playing three-dimensional chess for over a decade. Marcus was impressed when I presented the evidence at our second meeting. "Robert, you've got enough material not just to void the divorce, but to sue them for marital fraud and financial privacy violations," he said as he flipped through the files. But I had bigger plans. "Marcus, I want you to investigate if there are other victims. If they did this to me, they've probably done it to others." His expression shifted as he realized the scale of what we were dealing with. The most fascinating part of my preparation was that my own wife had handed me the tools to destroy her. For years, Diana insisted I install family safety apps on our devices. What she didn't know was that I had modified those systems to collect data rather than just share it. Every location, every call, every text message was being stored on servers only I controlled. The irony was delicious. She wanted to watch me, but ended up exposing herself completely. Tyler and Jessica started to sense something was off when they tried to access accounts they expected to control after the divorce. Passwords had been changed, access revoked, and important documents had simply vanished from where they used to be. They called in a panic, but I responded with the same cold tone they'd used at the ceremony. Everything is being handled through the attorneys. The family that conspired together was now panicking apart. 3 weeks after signing the papers, I held in my hands evidence of a conspiracy that went far beyond a greedy divorce. Diana, Tyler, and Jessica had not only planned to steal my assets, they had forged documents and created debts in my name to maximize their payout. What I uncovered in the bank records and intercepted communications made it clear this wasn't just personal betrayal. It was organized crime. The investigation Marcus initiated revealed something that made me question everything I thought I knew about my family. Diana wasn't just planning a greedy divorce. She was executing a fraudulent scheme that included forging documents and creating debts in my name. What began as marital betrayal had turned into organized financial crime, with implications I was only beginning to understand. Marcus arrived at the office with a folder full of evidence that completely shifted my perspective. "Robert, your wife isn't acting alone. There's a pattern here that suggests professional involvement," he said as he laid the bank documents on the table. Tyler had used his digital marketing skills to create fake identities, while Jessica leveraged her accounting expertise to manipulate records. What shocked me most was discovering Diana had tried to obtain forged powers of attorney to access my military benefits and Boeing contracts. That attempted fraud against the federal government elevated the case from family law to a federal crime. The personal revenge they planned against me had crossed legal lines that could lead to years behind bars. Marcus uncovered proof that my family had done this before, not necessarily to me, but to other people close to them. Jessica had accessed elderly clients' accounts through her work, and Tyler had used personal data from marketing campaigns. The betrayal I felt at the Boeing ceremony was just the tip of a much larger criminal iceberg. The documentation Marcus compiled showed this behavior going back at least 5 years. It wasn't a coincidence that Diana became so interested in my finances. She was mapping out my assets for the final blow. My double life, which I'd maintained for 12 years to protect myself, had been necessary, but I had completely underestimated the scope of the conspiracy. The turning point came when we discovered they had tried to access Boeing's internal systems using my retirement credentials. This was no longer just about stealing my personal assets. It was industrial espionage, an attempt to access classified military information. My own wife had turned our home into a criminal intelligence operation, using our intimacy as a gateway to government secrets. Marcus showed me intercepted communications between Diana, Tyler, and Jessica that revealed the true scope of the operation. They weren't just planning to steal from me. They were selling information that I brought home from work, documents I left around, professional contacts I mentioned. For years, every casual conversation about my job had been cataloged and monetized by my own family. The justice I originally sought for personal reasons had now become a national responsibility. This wasn't just a betrayed man seeking compensation. It was an American citizen discovering that his own home had been used as a base for crimes against national security. What Diana, Tyler, and Jessica didn't know was I had enough evidence to utterly destroy them, and now I had the moral motivation to do it. The time had come to execute what I had prepared through 12 years of silent double life. Marcus and I coordinated a plan that would leverage my Boeing security systems expertise to expose every crime my family had committed. In 2 days, I made exactly 37 strategic calls to the FBI, IRS, Cybercrime Division, and investigators specializing in military fraud. The first phase was unlocking the $287,000 I'd stashed in accounts Diana, Tyler, and Jessica didn't even know existed. That money wasn't just my financial safety. It was the fuel for a justice operation involving top federal crime attorneys. Every dollar was wisely directed to ensure their betrayal turned into legally irreversible consequences. Marcus presented the evidence to the FBI in a coordinated operation I'd planned, like a Boeing military project. All recorded conversations, forged documents, attempts to access government systems, and bank fraud material were simultaneously submitted to multiple federal agencies. The timing was perfect. While my family thought they were celebrating victory, the authorities were already building airtight criminal cases against each of them. The most satisfying part was the public exposure. I used my contacts in the aerospace industry to leak information on how Diana had tried to sell military secrets using my credentials. Tyler learned his digital marketing accounts were being investigated for creating fake identities in financial fraud schemes. Jessica received a surprise audit at her accounting office, where irregularities were found in dozens of elderly client accounts. The checkmate came when I organized a fake family reconciliation meeting at a Seattle restaurant. Diana, Tyler, and Jessica showed up thinking they would negotiate divorce terms, but instead, federal agents were waiting with arrest warrants. The shock on their faces when they realized I wasn't the helpless victim they expected was the moment 12 years of preparation paid off. Each of them tried reaching out desperately in the 48 hours following the arrests. Diana left 15 voicemails, crying and begging for forgiveness. Tyler sent texts blaming our mother. Jessica offered to return money she'd stolen from clients. I didn't respond to any of them. The same coldness they showed at my retirement ceremony was now returned tenfold, built over a decade. The operation I planned wasn't just about recovering my assets or safeguarding my finances. It was about proving that when you betray someone who spent their life protecting national secrets, you picked the wrong adversary. My security systems expertise, combined with 35 years of military discipline, crafted a response as effective as the projects I developed at Boeing. As Diana, Tyler, and Jessica faced federal charges that could carry decades in prison, I finalized the sale of our home and closed all joint accounts. The family that plotted my downfall during my retirement discovered I'd turned their betrayal into the utter ruin of their own lives. Justice didn't come through shouting or violence, but through meticulous documentation and perfectly executed strategic planning. In the weeks following the execution of my plan, Diana, Tyler, and Jessica discovered the true meaning of irreversible consequences. Federal investigations spread like wildfire through their lives, bank accounts frozen, reputations ruined, careers destroyed. The family that had conspired as one was now facing justice separately, each scrambling to save themselves. Diana lost the house in a swift tax foreclosure and had to move into a cheap apartment in Tacoma. Tyler found his digital marketing accounts under investigation by multiple agencies, losing all his corporate clients. Jessica was fired from the accounting firm when the irregularities came to light, and she now faces disciplinary proceedings to revoke her professional license. Desperate attempts to reach me began during the second week after the arrests. Diana called me crying, begging forgiveness, promising to return everything she'd tried to steal. Tyler sent dozens of messages trying to pin all the blame on their mother, claiming he had been manipulated. Jessica showed up at my door offering information on other crimes in exchange for leniency. My replies to all of them were the same calculated coldness they had shown at my Boeing ceremony. To Diana, I said only, "You made your choice." To Tyler, "Adults take responsibility for their own decisions." To Jessica, "Talk to your lawyer." After that, I blocked all numbers, changed the locks, and moved on to the final phase of my double life. The justice I was seeking wasn't just personal, it was systemic. The investigations I triggered ended up exposing a broader fraud network involving other professionals in Seattle. Diana, Tyler, and Jessica were just the tip of the iceberg, and now dozens of victims are recovering stolen assets. My personal revenge turned into a cleanup operation that helped the whole community. Marcus informed me that the trio had tried to negotiate deals with the district attorney's office, offering to snitch on other criminals in exchange for reduced sentences. But the federal crimes they committed, especially the attempted military espionage, were unforgivable. Diana is facing up to 15 years in prison, Tyler up to 12, and Jessica up to 10. The divorce they orchestrated to rob me has now become a complete blessing. All the assets they plan to steal are secure, and every account they tried to access is locked down. The betrayal that was meant to destroy me ended up freeing me from a family of criminals I never knew I had. Sometimes the double life we lead to protect ourselves ends up revealing truths we never imagined. 3 months after the arrests, I received one last letter from Diana at the federal prison where she awaited trial. She wrote that she finally understood the magnitude of her loss, that she regretted everything, that she truly loved me. I tore the letter up without reading it all and threw it in the trash. Some bridges, once burned completely, should never be rebuilt, and this one was among them. 6 months after leaving Seattle behind, I found a peace I hadn't felt in decades in Costa Rica. My new routine was simple: wake up at sunrise, walk along Manuel Antonio Beach, and work part-time as a financial consultant for small local businesses. The double life I had maintained for so long had finally transformed into a single, authentic existence. No masks, no defensive strategies. The house I bought with part of the $287,000 was modest but perfect. Ocean view, a small garden, friendly neighbors who respected my privacy. For the first time in years, I didn't have to monitor bank accounts, record conversations, or document suspicious behavior. The feeling of not having to protect myself constantly from betrayal was liberating in a way I had forgotten even existed. One morning, while collecting mail at the local post office, I found a letter that changed my perspective on everything that had happened. It was from Sarah Chen, a 73-year-old woman from Seattle, thanking me for the investigations that led to Jessica's arrest. Sarah had lost $50,000 of her retirement savings to my ex-stepdaughter's schemes and was now recovering the money through the criminal proceedings. Sarah's letter made me realize that the justice I sought wasn't just personal. It had real impact on innocent people's lives. Diana, Tyler, and Jessica weren't just criminals who betrayed me. They were predators who destroyed the lives of seniors and hardworking families. My revenge had become something bigger, a community protection act that benefited dozens of victims I had never met. Some nights, when the ocean's silence gave me space for reflection, I thought about the family I had lost and discovered was criminal. I didn't feel anger or bitterness, just a strange gratitude for having uncovered the truth before they did even more damage. The betrayal that was meant to destroy me ended up saving me from a life built on lies I didn't even know existed. Marcus would occasionally call me with updates on the trials. Diana got 12 years, Tyler 8 years, Jessica 10 years, sentences reflecting the severity of their federal crimes. He'd ask if I felt any remorse or wanted to visit them in prison. My answer was always the same. They made their choices. Now they live with the consequences. The simple life I built in Costa Rica taught me that true victory isn't in revenge, but in the ability to rebuild something better. I work with local entrepreneurs, help families protect their finances, and teach digital security principles. My experience with family betrayal became the expertise I now use to shield others from similar scams. Today, watching the sunset on the beach where I walk every afternoon, I understand that the ceremony at Boeing wasn't the end of my life. It was the beginning of the life I was truly meant to live. Some of the best things that happen to us come disguised as our worst betrayals. And sometimes, when you think you've lost everything, you realize you've actually been freed from everything that was holding you back. Looking back, I realized that the ceremony at Boeing wasn't the end of my life. It was the beginning of the life I truly deserved to live. Diana, Tyler, and Jessica thought they were destroying a helpless man, but in reality they freed someone who had quietly prepared for this moment for over a decade. The betrayal meant to break me ended up being the key that unlocked a genuine existence, far from people who saw my dedication as weakness and my trust as opportunity. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us are exactly what we needed to discover our true strength. And you, having followed every detail of this journey of revenge and rebuilding, I want to know, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever been in a situation where loved ones or close colleagues tried to take advantage of your kindness or trust? Share your story in the comments, whether it's a family betrayal, workplace deception, or any moment you needed to prove they underestimated the wrong person. Your experience could inspire others who are going through similar trials, and need to know they're not alone in this fight. If this story resonated with you in any way, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future stories I share here. Every week, I bring real accounts of individuals who faced adversity, betrayal, and injustice, but found smart ways to overcome and rebuild their lives. Because I believe we all deserve to learn effective strategies for when life pushes us beyond our limits.